Hello YouTube, I'm Decklord, the Musketeer, coming to you with another video. Hello, how are you? So, today I'm coming to you with a deck profile, a Darklord deck profile. Currently, what I'm going to be trying to do with deck profiles and talking about specific decks and combos and such, I'm going to be trying to talk about cards and decks which aren't necessarily good or at all competitive, potentially anyway. But what I'm going to talk about is cards that have potential to do well, and I have synergy with good side cards and whatever. I mean, like, I did my Violon deck profile with Epsilon, of course, being a beast against freaking elemental dragons, because of course Epsilon with a segment is just ridiculous. So I'm going to try and carry that on with this Darklord deck profile, because I've been playing with a couple of decks on Dueling Network, Darklord being one of them, Violon being the other, and of course I've got another deck I've been divvying around with, which I will tell you at a later date, which I may or may not do a deck profile on. But I've been working with Darklords, and these are easily my favourite deck at the moment. So I'm going to go through the deck, tell you why, tell you what you can do, combos and such, and yeah, let's get straight to it. So, deck list. For our monsters, we have 2 copies of Angel 07, we have 2 copies of Archlord Christia, 1 copy of Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the Beginning, 3 copies of Darklord Asmodeus, 3 copies of Darklord Superbia, and 1 copy of Darklord Zerato, 2 copies of Jelen Duo, 2 copies of Hecatrace, and 2 Max C. For our spells, we have 1 Book of Moon, 1 Dark Hole, 1 Heavy Storm, 1 Monster Reborn, 2 Mystical Space Typhoons, 3 copies of Trade-In, and 3 copies of Valhalla Hall of the Fallen. And for our traps, we have 3 copies of Call of the Haunted, 2 Eradicator Epidemic Viruses, 2 Fiendish Chain, 2 Mirror Forces, and a Solemn Judgment. I would go into the extra deck, but actually it's kind of inconsequential for this kind of deck. Although notable cards there, of course, are the Heliopolis, which we'll be going for mostly, and of course you do have Fairy Cheer Girl, which can be easily summoned in this deck for easier draw power. But yeah, let's get to the actual main deck itself. This is fun. This deck is so much fun. As you can tell, basically the main strategy with this is, of course, you want to try and get Valhalla Hall of the Fallen off as fast as you can, so you can start summoning huge monsters. Of course, what I am doing with this deck, which has been noted with other ones, I'm trying to make this be able to at least kind of combat what's currently happening in the meta as it stands. So, of course, that's where you see Angel 07 and Archlord Christia. Of course, Archlord Christia is a staple pretty much in fairy decks. However, Angel 07 has not seen any real play in it. Of course, various other YouTubers like Mega Capital G have done videos dedicated to Angel 07. And me, actually, with my my experience of actually playing with it, I'll give you kind of what I actually think of the card and why I think it deserves a space in the deck. So, of course, Angel 07 really, of course, if you don't know anything about it, it's when it is tribute summoned, it gains the following effect, and the effect is that the effects of the effect monsters cannot be activated, and it has 2500 attack and 1200 defense. Now, this card is an interesting card because actually it's one of the weaker ones. It's level 7, so it can't work with Trade-In, and it needs to be tribute summoned to get the effect, which actually Darklords, they focus on special summoning from the graveyard. What is good about Darklords, though, is you summon your Asmodeus, you send a Superbia to the graveyard, you Call of Haunted or a Mirror or Monster Reborn, the Superbia, summon back another fairy, and you have tribute fodder for your Angel 07, which means summoning this card is stupidly easy. However, we also have stuff like Jelen Duo, which of course is fantastic. You use your Valhalla, you special summon Jelen Duo with Valhalla, and then tribute off that Jelen Duo for the Angel 07. It's just gorgeous. And if you have a way to summon Christia on alongside it, you have like, it's just horrendously mean. I've had games where I've been up against really monster effect heavy decks where I've literally just poked them with Angel 07 for game because actually they weren't able to do anything. Getting Angel 07 first turn can be brutal against some decks, especially something like Dragon Rulers and the like. But, of course, this deck doesn't just focus on, like, going up against Dragon Rulers. Dragon Rulers aren't the only deck out there. What this deck likes to do, and of course, which is really underrated, is actually having good monsters with really powerful, with really high attack points, because Darklord Asmodeus, it's the card that will set up most of your plays. It is so good. Oh my god. Of course, it can't be summoned from the graveyard or from the deck, so you can't really use it with Superbia as such, but what it does is it allows you to get set up. Its effect will most likely be sending Superbia to the graveyard, or if you have a special summoning mechanic already, then you'll send a Christia to the graveyard, because like you'll Call of the Haunted and Call of Haunted targeting Superbia, then when Superbia is summoned, you'll summon like an Archlord Christia from your graveyard, or of course if you want to get rid of some monsters on your opponent's side of the field, you'll summon a Darklord Zerato, which of course allows you to just mass nuke the field, which is just gorgeous. And in addition to that, Darklord Zerato, of course, actually can use its effect multiple times during the same turn. So if you have the fodder in your hand and just additional dark monsters you can get rid of, then you can just continue nuking. So like if your opponent's got a Dragosack on the field, you can get rid of one dark monster from your hand for Zerato's effect, and then get rid of another one to get rid of the remaining Dragosack. So it is really quite nice, and what the deck can do is really quite interesting and really quite cool. Of course, what I love about this deck as well is, in addition to the whole, it can summon huge monsters and really screw over your opponent's monsters with the effects of like Christia and Angel 07, but actually traps. Traps are, oh my god, Eradicator Epidemic Virus. The fact that if a deck has access to Eradicator, you have infinitely better matchups against pretty much everything, simply because of the versatility of the viruses. Of course, it really does shine against Prophecy, where you can literally just go Valhalla into an Asmodeus or into a Superbia, preferably Superbia, because you don't really want to tribute off an Asmodeus for Eradicate Epidemic Virus, simply because it won't get its effect to summon 2 tokens, because it has to be destroyed, and in addition to the fact that actually you can't summon it back from the graveyard. So ideally you want to use Superbia with Eradicate Epidemic Virus. But honestly, even if you do get rid of Asmodeus or a Zerato or Superbia or whatever, it's still worth it, because you know what Eradicator Epidemic Virus does to Prophecy. It's pretty much auto-win, especially considering the fact that this deck can just chuck out powerful monsters to follow up very easily, even if you do get rid of a huge monster that you control on your side of the field. So the fact that you can use that is fantastic. Of course, Fiendish Chain, I'm using Fiendish Chain in pretty much every deck I have at the moment. Of course, with Violence being one of the only real decks that don't, because it has like no traps really and it just protects itself. But Fiendish Chain is ridiculous in this deck. I'm not using stuff like Torrential, I'm just using Monster Mirror Force because it's just silly. Honestly, people will overextend so much this format, and actually it's just lovely. Like, you set one card and your opponent will most of the time will want to attack, because they've okay, they've only got one set, what's the worst that can happen? And a lot of the time people will fall prey to my Mirror Force, so much so that I actually have a deck profile. Not a deck profile, I do have a dueling video of this, which actually demonstrates everything that this deck is pretty much capable of. It's quite a good deck, so if you would like to see that dueling video, do say in the comments down below as a video response. I'm going to end this video on one more note. That is, of course, pertaining to Angel 07. Of course, being a card that a lot of people talk about, and alongside Eradicate Epidemic Virus is two cards in this deck's itinerary that it allows it to combat the meta relatively well. But of course, that really does depend on the matchup. I am maining Angel 07 because this deck particularly goes up against stuff in Dueling Network. It is not going to be one of those cards you will drop every game. If you are able to drop it and protect it with stuff like Fiendish Chain, then you'll be okay most of the time. Most of the time you will be winning due to your Asmodeus and being able to just spam the field with high-level fairies. But what Angel 07 does is it allows you to bide you time, basically. I have had games, of course, where I have just poked my opponent to death with Angel 07 because they've relied so much on their monster effects. So in itself, it can win games, but it's not going to be the card that you drop every single game. So although I think this is one of those decks which will be more suited to using Angel 07, the other decks probably being Fairy Circle, which focuses more on the light fairies. I think Angel 07 has got potential, but is not going to be one of those cards that's going to be used in every single other deck. There are better cards. I mean, Obelisk the Tormentor is still a thing, guys. Please, why aren't Frog Monarchs topping already? And of course, Eradicate Epidemic Virus, I'm maining it simply because, of course, lots of decks use it, and of course it has such a good thing against Prophecy, but of course you will side out the viruses and the Angel 07. A card that I do like switching in and out with Angel 07 is actually the Splendid Venus, which of course is a monster that allows you to reduce the attack points and defense points of all non-fairy type monsters by 500 attack points, meaning that a lot of your opponent's monsters just don't become at all threatening anymore, especially considering Dragosack has got 26, which means it would be 21, which actually even a very simple Xyz summon can attack over it, assuming they don't have any more tokens on the field. But the attack decrease is very, very useful. It's also continuous, and meaning that your cards can't get negated, which is gorgeous. But yeah, so this deck has many options. Fairies have so many decent boss monsters, it's ridiculous. So I'd be surprised, I would actually love to see more people using them. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm Jack Clark, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Musketeer. More videos coming out to you soon. However, do say in the comments down below if you'd like to see more from my Darklord deck. I do have a dueling video that I can show you guys at some point if you'd like to see it. But until then, really, do tell me what you think about the deck and what you think about Angel 07 and particularly its uses in the meta and how it can combat it. But of course, if you have any other additional ideas that deck ideas that you think could go up against the meta or have particularly strong matchups, do say in the comments down below as a video response, because I may or may not do a video on those as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm Jack Clark, the Eagle Musketeer. More videos coming at you soon, but until then, goodbye.